Welcome to a special meeting of the Architects Review Board and Historic Resources Board on January 10th, 2019 for the City of Palo Alto. Would staff please call the roll?
Chair Firth.
Here.
Vice Chair Balte.
Present.
Board Member Goyer. Board Member Liu.
Present.
Wow. I'm sorry, because I'm looking at an old agenda. So, okay, Board Member Hirsch.
Here.
Board Member Thompson.
She's absent. She's unwell.
Okay, thank you. So you have 4 members of the ARB. For the HRB, Chair Bauer.
Here.
Vice Chair Corey.
Here.
Board Member Mackinnon.
Here.
Board Member Wimmer. You know,
Absent.
Board Member Kohler.
Absent.
Board Member Bernstein.
Here.
Who am I missing?
Shepherd
Board Member Shepherd.
is absent.
Have I gotten everybody?
That's it.
Okay, so we have 4 out and 3 present, 4 present.
4 present.
Thank you.
So each board has a quorum. Are there any oral communications? I see no one in the audience, so I believe the answer is no. Any agenda changes, additions, or deletions, staff?
None.
All right. We have a city official report, the transmission of the ARB meetings, schedules, et cetera. I think we had a subcommittee to schedule for the 17th for the project at the intersection of, what is it, Charleston and El Camino? Or Meadow and El Camino, across the street from the Goodwill.
Yeah.
What?
East Meadow.
East Meadow, there's an actual address. Alex, would you serve on that subcommittee with me?
Yes.
So, Board Member Liu and I will serve on that subcommittee.
Thank you, so noted.
And our first action item is a public hearing involving the Historic Resources Board and the Architects Review Board for consultation with the Peninsula Corridor Electrification Project, known as the PCEP, overhead contact system, foundation, and pole layouts designed for installation within the Caltrain Peninsula Corridor, Joint Powers Board right-of-way in Palo Alto. The EIR for this project was certified in January 2015. Are there any comments before we begin? Board Member Bernstein.
Thank you, Chair Firth. I received a ruling from the Fair Political Practice Commission that as I own property within 500 feet of the railroad right-of-way, I won't be able to participate in this item. Thank you.
We will miss you. So we no longer have a quorum of the HRB, but we would ask them to sit with us and consult and deliberate with us as we hear this report, those members who remain in their individual capacities. Thank you. Staff.
Thank you. Good morning. Amy French, Chief Planning Official. We visited with the HRB on November 8th and the ARB on November 15th. The report captures the comments and questions of both boards with responses as received from the project team, who are here today, 3 members of the Caltrain's electrification project team, and they will be giving a presentation. First, I'll just give a brief overview, and that is, again, we are here for color selection specifically, and what happened at the ARB meeting in November was a continuation to receive actual color samples. The color samples have been presented at the front. There are powder-coated metal in 4 different colors there. The color selection, they have requested that we submit our color selection as a city by tomorrow, January 11th. So we appreciate kind of final comments from both boards or members of the HRB and the collective ARB. The color can be the same everywhere, or there can be differences. We had, with the HRB, a suggestion that the downtown station or Palo Alto station near University have, and this is very bright yellow, but I don't think that's the intent. The color sample there shows a warm color in an attempt to mimic the color at the station there. So that was one item that the HRB suggested, was to be compatible with the station there. The Stanford station here on the screen shows a green color. I believe the HRB suggested that the rest of the poles be green throughout the city. So here's an image showing that. And then the California Avenue station here is showing a black color. I believe that's black. And that is another possibility, certainly, among these are 3 of the 4 samples that you have. Moving on, the paralleling station there near the Park Plaza project, 195 Page Mill, is another place that color choices are available for discussion, and I'll let the project team cover this. They have these slides as well in their presentation. One thing that came up was the letter, as mentioned, from Mr. Borak. We had presented this in November about the fact that pruning work had begun and that pruning work would resume. And the team can say more about that, but this slide had been presented back in November, so we were aware that there was tree activity. And that concludes staff's presentation. I'm going to switch this to the applicant's presentation. And are there questions of staff while we're uploading?
In response to Herb Borak's email to the HRB and the ARB, I'd like to point out for anyone who actually watches this that the Caltrain MOD.org website has a place where you can sign up for weekly updates on where the construction is occurring. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I get those now, and they're pretty thorough, and you can keep track of where construction and what kind of construction is going on in the corridor, throughout the entire corridor, by signing up for that.
Thanks for prefacing that, Chair David, or Chair Bauer, excuse me. If you can sign up at calmod.org/get-involved, you can enter Palo Alto as your city of residence. And we do send weekly updates to all folks who are interested about construction along the whole corridor. We also send updates just to work that's happening in Palo Alto. If a new phase of work is starting, we send out an update to the city as well. So thank you all again for having us here today. Myself is Brent Tejan, here with Lynn Guan and Stacy Koch from the Caltrain Electrification Project, here to give you an update on the pole color selection that was continued from the last ARB meeting in November. So a quick reminder of what the Caltrain Electrification Project is. We are electrifying the 51 miles of track that JPB Caltrain owns from San Francisco to San Jose Tamian Station. The electrification project is really just an infrastructure project where we are electrifying the current tracks. We are installing concrete foundations in the ground, poles atop those foundations, and then connecting the poles to wires and the train, which will convert to electric from diesel. We are converting 75% of our fleet from diesel to electric. Our speed will remain the same at 79 miles per hour. The project, however, will allow us to increase from 5 trains an hour currently to 6 trains an hour per direction. That'll allow us to have more station stops or reduce travel time or a mix of both. As part of the project, we also committed to restoring both Atherton and Broadway service on the weekdays. And we'll continue to have tenant service, ACE, Capitol Corridor, Amtrak, and Freight operate on the corridor underneath the wires. A quick look at the schedule. This is a long time coming. Back in 1999, it was first introduced in the strategic plan for Caltrain. More than 20 years later, we're under construction. Groundbreaking happened in 2017, with quite a bit of work happening last year in 2018, and continuing until 2021 for construction. And then there'll be some testing between 21 and 22, and we hope to have passenger service in early 22. early 2022. So there was a request last time for renderings of the stations with poles. We do have color samples that Amy provided, and I have additional ones here. I'll bring one each up for each different station. So this will be Palo Alto Station with the warmer brown on top there.
Maybe come back and say that on the mic.
Yeah. So for Palo Alto Station, our architectural consultants suggested this warmer yellow tan color to match the historic station at Palo Alto.
I just note that in this light, it's a long way from yellow.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, these slides don't do it justice. And I will also note that these chips are glossy, however, the poles will be matte, powder coat matte.
You're proposing matte?
Yes, all the poles along the corridor will be matte to reduce glare. And I don't know if you want to take each station, I'll defer to the chairs if you want to take each station.
I think if you'd tell us what the meaning of these various samples is, that would be helpful, and then we can have our discussion.
Sure, yeah, these were recommended by our architectural consultants. The first one was
The warmer one?
the warmer, the tan, which was the recommended color based on the matching of the station.
Right, and these don't have names, these just have numbers, is that right?
They should have names. They should have Palo Alto Station recommended.
Oh, but they don't have, the colors don't have names. We're trying to refer to them, we have to refer to as FS3649.
Correct, they don't have names. I think you can refer to them as the tan, gray, and brown for these.
So you have 3 alternative proposed colors for the Palo Alto station?
Correct, yes. And the tan is recommended per our architectural consultant and historical consultant.
Right,
Okay, and then the other selection that we had, that other group of, are these duplicates of the ones we had earlier? No.
So you have 2 sets of each. This is just for Palo Alto Station.
so
Got it, not the green. Okay,
Green is not recommended for Palo Alto Station.
all right, we're
So
talking
I wasn't-
downtown Palo Alto.
I wasn't sure if you wanted to talk about each station individually and then...
Why don't you give us the whole array, and then we'll
Sure.
then we'll deliberate.
Yeah, I'll keep going then. So yeah, these are just renderings of what Palo Alto Station would look like. There's center poles as well as side track poles at Palo Alto Station. This is a photo simulation looking from the west platform facing south. Again, these yellows aren't doing it justice, but the chips are much closer to reality. This is a typical of what a center pole would look like. Center poles in general range from 30 to 45 and a half feet. Center poles are in the 35-foot range. And this is a typical of a side pole at a platform. The side poles are the shorter ones in the 30 to 35-foot range. This may be hard.
Approving the minutes of our last meeting at this meeting, so I think we're pretty familiar with the
Sure,
most recent
yeah.
presentation.
So this is just the designs for Palo Alto Station. You can see, might be hard to see, but hopefully you can see on your screen. The stations are kind of hatched out here. So this is the first set of the Palo Alto Station, and this is the second. These small dots here are the poles. These will be center poles. These would be side poles. Side poles here as well, and the center pole. And this is just a summary of the color recommendations for all the stations, but I'll continue going through for the rest of the stations. And we are seeking the ARB, HRB recommendation on station area pole colors. That recommendation would go to the city, and the city would have final say. This is a rendering from Alma Street facing north of Stanford Station. The only color recommended for Stanford Station was the marine green. Again, typical side poles for Stanford Station. And with the current design, they are only side poles at Stanford Station. I will note on all these designs, it is only 65%, and it is subject to change as we move further along. Again, the only color recommended for Stanford Station was marine green. And then finally, the photo simulation of California Avenue Station, mostly side poles at California Avenue Station. Black was the recommended color, with brown as second and marine green as third. And the black was recommended to match the current poles and shelters at that station. Again, typical side poles for the station areas, and design for California Avenue Station with side poles being highlighted about every 150 feet. Here. So that is it for the station areas. We do have color selection for the PS5 paralleling station. I can go into that as well if you'd like
And
to.
what about the non-station poles?
Those will all be marine green per the MMRP, the Monitoring and Mitigation Reporting Plan.
So we could change that. Okay. So to summarize, you're going to talk, if it's okay with the board members, I think it'd be good to talk about the poles first and then the paralleling station. Does that make sense? Seeing nods.
I'll provide another set of chips as well for
Thank you.
both California and
Great.
Stanford Station.
So marine green is the default color for poles in the city. This was described and defined in the mitigation and monitoring report for the EIR.
That's correct.
When they did that. You're also suggesting marine green for Stanford Station, which is sort of a wide place in the track. Well, not the track, the right-of-way. And black for California Avenue, and what's the name of the color at, you're recommending for the Palo Alto Station?
I would say a tan to match the Palo Alto Station.
Okay, who would like to begin? Alex? I was really impressed by Alex's detailed review last time.
Sure. I don't think I have any comments today. I think I covered everything last time, and I don't object to anything that's being proposed today.
So you would second their recommendations as to color, or at least agree with them?
Yeah, I mean, I think based on my previous comments, I think I would prefer the gray at University Avenue, and then the others are all fine. But I don't object to the tan at University Avenue Station, and I think that that's more of a call for the HRB.
You want to call on your members? HRB members.
I don't know, any HRB members want to comment on this? Brandon or Michael? I can, Brandon, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So just real quick, one question, the MMRB, so is the pole for, the pole color for the city is the marine green, that's decided, there's no debate on that? So, because that could, I don't know if that would impact this decision, but.
That's correct, yeah, it's for the MMRP for any visually sensitive area. Yeah, that's correct.
Because I think the last time we met at the HRB, we had discussed it, and, and it was still up in the air, and it wasn't clear if you were looking for our input or not.
I'm sorry, that was unclear. We're not looking for input outside the station area. Those are concerns.
Thanks for clarifying.
So the only comment I would make is that at our meeting, the HRB did feel strongly that the poles in front of the University Avenue station match that station
How close is
patina.
this?
I mean, it's a subjective thing, color is a subjective thing, but the tan here or something like that will certainly be more compatible with the building than green or gray or brown or any of the other colors here. And
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
Yeah, and I don't think that would change if all the board members were here.
Yeah, and our historical consultant for this project went out to the stations and actually brought the chips and tried to match the station
Okay,
closely.
and our other comment, if I'm remembering correctly, is that all the rest of the poles could be green just because they would be uniform throughout the city, and most of the corridor through Palo Alto is lined with trees, and the green would simply, again, be more compatible with that color scheme. I don't have an objection personally to the suggestions that your consultant has made here, but it seems to me it would be less expensive over a long-term maintenance consideration to have one color over as many poles as possible.
Thank you. Any other comments? Vice Chair Balte.
Thank you. I share what Alex said earlier. I can make the findings to recommend a recommendation back to Caltrain. I'd like to reiterate that at least I feel that a single pole in the middle rather than a pair of them on the side is preferable throughout the city. Given an aesthetic choice, that's that's an aesthetic choice that's preferable. Secondly, in my opinion, any sort of a finish on these poles that does not need maintenance, either a galvanized or a weathering steel, would be preferable in the long term. I remain concerned that these paints will wear, and I doubt they'll be maintained the way they would need to be. That said, I can support the project as presented. Thank you.
Anybody else? So I'm generally supportive. I'm glad that you have a color that you're happy with for, and the HRB is happy with for the downtown Palo Alto station. I was really struck by Alex's careful analysis of all the different categories of colors that are used at these stations for the buildings, for the light poles, for the railings, for the other things that happen. And Alex, you feel that black is suitable for the Caltrain, California Avenue station? The proposed color?
Well, I think it's possible. The metal that's already out there in all the shelters is like a dark bronze anodized aluminum, but there is some black there, I think I forgot what it is. There is an element there that is black, so I think it's workable. And I think the benches that are out there are actually closer to like this brown color. So there's actually a range of stuff that's out there. So generally, if darker would be better to help it blend in.
I don't actually think, I very much support not changing colors for the Stanford station. The Stanford station's meaningful to Caltrain, but it's not particularly visible if you're not catching a game train. So I think it's good to just have those poles blend in. I'm fine with changing them for the downtown station, and I'm fine with changing them from Caltrain. I think having a signal that you're at the station's fine. So I wouldn't object to the proposal. Yes,
Yes,
Member McMahon.
I guess my thought here was, I don't know if you're going to do this, but are these going to be powder coated for longevity? Okay,
Yes, they will be powder coated.
okay,
matte
so
powder
it's going to be like a permanent coating then? with
Yes.
Low maintenance?
Yes.
Okay.
They have a 10-year life cycle for the paint.
And when you spoke to us last time, we had a question about fencing, newly installed fencing with wire that's otherwise prohibited in the city, and you were going to get back to us with information on that?
Yes, that was installed at the request of the city for trespassing concerns.
Okay, in that form.
Yes. The regular fence was installed per Caltrain standard.
Right.
The additional 3-foot was installed in coordination with the city.
It was after all the suicides.
Right. All right. Any other questions before we go on this? We did ask you for information about costs, but as I understand it, you are confident that matte finished color is your best bet in terms of maintenance, and we will hope that you are right. Any other questions? Well, seeing none, and shall we recommend approval? I don't know exactly what we're doing here. We're no longer doing courtesy consultations because they revised the agreement between the city, and it's now a real consultation, which means we tell you what we think and you do what you want. But shall we advise the CalMod project of Caltrains that we are supportive of their color recommendations for the poles?
Well, why don't you want to reference their
Maybe
chart?
yeah.
Option
Sure.
one?
Option one.
Because
Go for it. Why don't you make a motion? I can't read this.
Okay, well, I think I will make a recommendation that we recommend option one of the three options. So that is Palo Alto Station, which is color FS 23522. The California Avenue Station is color FS 27040, which is black. And the Stanford Stadium Station, which is color FS 14052, which is the marine green.
Is there a second from an ARB board member?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? So that is 4 votes in favor, 1 absence, Board Member Thompson, and consensus from the HRB, which has advised us particularly on the Palo Alto station. Thank you. Would the ARB like to continue with us for the discussion of the paralleling station?
Oh, sure.
Okay, great. Paralleling station.
Yeah, before I jump into that, I did want to answer the question that we received via email. So tree work has been about 35% complete in the city of Palo Alto, and the first pass of foundation potholings, where they you pothole for every utility
Right.
at every foundation location, that should be done by the end of this week. They will have to come back and do any resolutions if there are any utilities, so they will do another pass of potholing, and utility potholing will continue from now until February.
Thank you. And then I was just looking at my notes. We also had a question about whether there were any new lighting projects, and I believe the answer we got was that you were substituting LED lamps for
We don't
what
have any-
exists, but other than that, there's no project online.
Correct, yeah, we don't have any plans currently for Palo Alto Station, but we are updating our
Right.
stations.
We're just asking, of course, because we're thinking about what goes with what.
Sure.
Thank you. All right, paralleling station.
I did want to show that there are additional pole types, in addition to the ones I showed for the details. There are some portals which are a little bit wider for the wider tracks, and then some 2-track cantilevers within the city of Palo Alto. And again, all poles outside of the station areas will be painted marine green in Palo Alto. So there is a paralleling station being installed in Palo Alto. I'll show a diagram of the location in a moment. The paralleling station, there are 10 traction power facilities throughout the corridor. Those help provide and distribute power to the new electrified system. The paralleling station in particular does not get power from PG&E, it gets power from the overhead lines and then helps redistribute it throughout the corridor. The facility components are the transformer, gantries, which are up to 50 feet, and the control house, which we will look for your recommendation on color selection. And these are unmanned, secure, and lighted facilities. Paralleling station number 5 in Palo Alto will be located just south of Page Mill Road on Caltrain property. We have coordinated with the city on location during the EIR phase. Vegetation screening will be implemented at this location with a review and input from city staff. And the control house is to be selected by the city. The colors be selected by the city with input from HRB and ARB. This is the location of the paralleling station number 5. You can see Page Mill Road right here going up and down on the page. And these are the components of the paralleling station, the 2 gantries on either side of the tracks, the control house, which we will ask for your color recommendation, and then the transformer. This is an example of a paralleling station from Amtrak Northeast Corridor. You can see the components here in green, or the point in green is the transformer. The gantries are both this one in the foreground and then this one in the background, these H-frame steel structures. And then the control house is the one on the right here. An example again of a transformer and then the control house in the background. And I do have color samples as well for the paralleling station control house. And I'll get up and pass these around.
Thank you.
And the colors highlighted in orange are the ones that are recommended per our architectural consultant.
So can you clarify, so the Crossbed Canyon is the control house color?
Correct, yeah, it'd be the
And then
control
the
house.
juniper green is the gantry color?
These are all considerations for the control house color.
Oh, just control house color?
Yes, correct. These are options for the control house color.
And the gantry would be marine green?
No, I don't think so.
We don't believe so.
What do we believe that it would be?
What was that?
What do you believe it would be?
Just the galvanized steel?
Galvanized steel?
Yes.
Excuse me, I'm trying to look at this.
So I'll take a moment here to ask another question. So is there a reason why we wouldn't be the gantries, those towers would not match the rest of the towers on the corridor?
It's just something that we had not included as the specifications in our contract. So we had been focused on the poles, and there wasn't a consideration to not include it. It just for kind of standard material purchase of the gantries went with the galvanized steel, didn't specify a color.
Can I ask a related question to this? On the corridor, there are switching towers, apparatus that crosses the tracks that tell the trains they have red or green lights so that they either move forward or not. The one I'm thinking of is near Woodside Road, for instance. And I'm wondering how that height of that particular signaling tower compares to the gantry at this station. Do you know? Roughly, I mean, just trying to get a sense of what 45 feet is going to look like at that site. That's fairly large.
Yeah, I think overall the signal bridges that you're referring to, the one by Woodside Road, they're going to be about roughly the same. They're roughly the same height, potentially even a little bit taller. So just probably rough estimate, they're probably about 40 foot or so, 40, 45 foot in terms of height.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any comments on the proposal for the paralleling station? We had a lot of comments last time, most of which I think were rejected. Any comments from anybody on this? Sure.
I can't remember, Amy, what the HRB discussion was about this, but I think it was that it just go away. I mean, so, that the color not be white, for instance, that it be an innocuous or blending color. That's a better way of describing it, maybe. So from my perspective, any of these colors would be acceptable, but I don't have an opinion. I don't know if the other HRB members do.
That's what we discussed.
Okay. As I recall, one of the big issues was the location of this particular facility, and generally you're satisfied with the proposed location. One of the more ardent commentators was Board Member Thompson. Alex, David?
Yes, do you see the top of that facility when you're in the train? You do. So what is the roofing material? And what color would it be?
To be honest, I off the top of my head, I do not know what the roofing material would be at the on top of the control houses, but that's something we can look into and get an answer back to you. I think it will be roughly. I think it really will be the same. I think the overall the control house is just a steel.
Steel?
Kind of, is it just single steel or whatever the material outside, the sheeting material is going to be for the entire house, but we can look into it. I'm not 100%
So
sure.
you have any thought as to how that would be painted? Is that discussed by your consultant for this?
That's something we can double check. When I kind of just think about painting the house, it's more, I'm thinking about painting the outside, the four surrounding walls, but the top portion, it's a good question. I have to look into it.
When are you planning to build these paralleling stations? What's your timeline?
So 3 are currently under construction right now in South San Francisco, South San Francisco and San Jose. We don't have the final schedule with PS5 yet, but I think we would expect late this year, early next year.
So PS5 is what you call ours?
Correct, yes, paralleling station number 5.
Sounds like public school. Okay, paralleling station 5. All right. So last time we had questions about how visible this was going to be. Board Member Hirsch has pointed out, quite visible from the train. Remind me what the feeling was about, what the conclusion was with regard to planting around this, to what extent it's possible, and to what extent you need to be so far away for safety reasons that it's going to be visible.
So there will be vegetation around the paralleling station. We don't have the vegetation plan currently. It's not it's not designed yet, but we will be working with the city on that. And it will be surrounding the perimeter of the facility. And it's generally trees and vines, what has been used in other areas.
Okay, so is the roof's also going to be visible from the housing nearby, is that correct? Or am I seeing this wrong? Is that a blank wall? I
It's a
forget.
blank, it's a blank wall.
So it's not a problem.
There's not a single window.
Right.
Back
That's-
there.
I remember that.
Between the paralleling station and 195 Page Mill Road, there is a row of newly planted
Right.
redwood trees.
That should do it. And then, the next thing over is the train track, and then there's landscaping, and then there's Alma. Is that right? So there's quite a few opportunities for screening.
Correct, and the current thought is to do the screening around the perimeter of the facility with trees and vines.
But if you needed to do some more, you could also do it on the other side of the right-of-way, right? On the edge of Alma?
Stacy?
Is that correct, city staff?
That would, part of that is city right-of-way, and we are always amenable to increasing
Okay.
the vegetation in our right-of-way.
All right. Board Member Balte?
Well, I think it comes down to the color, and to me, the juniper green or the beetle would be the two preferable choices. They're slightly darker, they'll go better with the live oak colors. And it's just really tough to put us on the spot in this light to make that call. I'd say you guys should let your architects make that call, but I think a darker green is preferable.
Okay. My view is that darker is better. My view is that it does matter how it looks from the top, that these are fairly large structures. People will see them, and one of the problems and one of the big, it makes a big difference what you see when you look outside of a train window. And often you have no control of it. Often cities show their most dilapidated faces to a railroad right-of-way, that's less true now. And this is an opportunity for you to have something that looks trim and organized and well thought out all the way through. And so I think it does matter how it's going to look for the top, how the edges are finished. Does somebody want to make a motion? And I will say that these colors can't be read at all when you're sitting inside. You can get some idea of them at the window. Would somebody on the ARB make a motion? Or we can have further discussion.
I'll make a recommendation that the paralleling station be either juniper green or the beetle gray green.
I'll second that motion, that recommendation, I'm sorry.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, that's unanimous from those of us who are here, ARB and HRB members alike. Is there anything else you'd like from us?
No, thank you again for allowing us to present today.
Well, thank you for coming, and we know it's a complicated project, and we know you don't necessarily make your life easier, but we hope we make the project better. Thank you. Right, and we will say thank you to the HRB for coming. And staff, if you'll keep an eye on the design of the paralleling station, we will not expect to see rooftop design unless you feel it's necessary, but if you would keep that in mind as you continue to work collaboratively, we'd appreciate it. Thank you. We have minutes to approve.
Great to meet you.
Good to see you. Take care.
Good luck.
Good to see you.
Looks like you got a big packet of
thought you were going to
information.
present your battery train.
I gave it to...
Okay.
I gave it to...
All right. All right.
They're installing them in Germany.
Good enough.
I think the train has left the station, so to speak.
I think you're right. All right, we will now do the rest of our agenda. Not the rest of my agenda, because my agenda didn't include all the items, but I understand the publicly distributed one did. Thank you. Okay, draft architectural review board meeting minutes for November 1st, 2018. I think we were all
I believe we have October 18th first.
Oops, sorry. Draft meeting minutes for October 18th. Any comments or corrections?
Yes, I have a comment. So for the subcommittee, there were two items, 2609 Alma, which is the 3-unit project, and also 250 Sherman, which was the public safety building. And in the minutes, so they're not listed in the action at that meeting, I think, was not put in the minutes, but
Could you report
we
back?
do have, yeah, so on the next meeting, on November 1st, Peter Balte gave a summary of what happened for the public safety building.
Right.
Meaning they changed the base to brick. And I don't know, there may have been other changes as well. But I don't think we have a record of what happened on 2609 Alma. I think we were just trying to change the back facade.
Okay, I think maybe we might want to bring the October 18th minutes back then so that we can add the subcommittee.
What's
that
your
what you're
custom? Because it's not actually a meeting of the board, but it does need to be recorded somehow. How do we do that normally? Do we report back at the next meeting?
We do, as far as the file's concerned, we do sort of a summary memo that we put in the file itself. And we have many times sort of put a short paragraph into the minutes. And it's
The minutes of the meeting the day it happened, or?
the day, yeah.
That's
so
probably the simplest way to do it, Do you think, Alex? Or the next meeting?
I think the issue is that it's something that the transcriber can't do, right? So it's something that staff has to actually do.
Correct, and that's, I think, why it got missed this time is because, it's not coming straight from the transcriber. Staff needs to add that piece.
Okay, I mean, I think it's.
I think it's okay on this. If you want it to come back, I think that's fine. I think I'm aware of these two particular projects, and I don't have any issues with it, but I think I do understand that people go back through minutes and stuff.
Yeah, they need to be somewhere.
It is good to have it in there. So if it needs to come back, that's fine. But
So, and from my point of view, I don't care whether you add it to the material you present to us, so it gets, I don't care which meeting's minutes it gets added to, but it does need to be recorded. What would you like to do, staff? Come back with it?
I think that's probably best.
All right. Then
can I
let's,
make a motion?
yes.
Continue the minutes for October 18th, 2018 to a date uncertain.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
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 Well, I wasn't at
Yeah.
any of the previous.
Okay, that's 3 in favor and 1 abstention and 1 absent. November 1st, 2018? It was very helpful to have these, by the way.
Yeah, so I think there's only one correction that I would make, which is on page 53. There are multiple references to Caltran, and I think that it should be Caltrain, and I think those two are very different. So I think we do want that corrected. And then I had another just thought, and I think we've mentioned this before, but like on page 52 and 54, we use a lot of acronyms. And I'm wondering if we're making it really confusing for people.
So it would be good to spell them out the first time.
Yeah, so we have like TDM, TMA, VMT, LOS, MM, LOS, LOMA, FEMA.
It's bad. We should probably clean up our presentations and conversation, and probably in the minutes, it should at least be spelled out once, the way you would in a legal document.
And then under subcommittee, I think that's for the next,
Set.
I think that's the next set of meetings. Yeah. So that's all that I had.
Any other comments on November 1st? Motion to approve?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes for November 1st.
Second?
Moved by Board Member Liu, seconded by Vice Chair Balte. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So that's 3-1-1 with 1 abstention and 1 absence.
And actually, Thompson she was absent at that meeting, so she should be recused as well.
Well, but she's absent, that's all we need to say.
Yeah.
But good point. Fortunately, we had enough votes. Minutes for November 15th, 2018. Those were actually the ones I meant to say were helpful. Other than typos, I have
So, the same comment, was just like under, I think under subcommittee, I think they were listing the items, and then there's a mention of 744 San Antonio, which was just the lighting at the terraces. And so there, in the minutes, it says like insert
it's missing.
email, I think from our consulting planner. But I would just say it was approved, the subcommittee, which was myself and Wynn, approved the lighting fixture on the upper terraces. And for 3945 El Camino Real, which is the Comfort Inn, I think we report that we approved the corner detail for the Trespa. And then I think that 3223 Hanover is fully described. So that's fine.
Any other comments?
No, I will make a motion that we recommend that we approve the minutes for November 15th, 2018.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. And was Ozma there or not there? Oh, she was, wasn't she? She was there. Yes, she commented. All right, so that is a 3-0-0 vote. One abstention, one absence. Subcommittee items, we have one coming up from the 17th. Is that Alex?
Yes, so related to the 17th, on the tentative future agenda that you have, the 702 Clara Drive is being deferred to a February hearing. And then subcommittee item 4115 El Camino has been added, and that is the Pizza Chicago location.
Pizza Chicago is what I couldn't think of.
Yes.
It's 4105?
4115.
4115. And Alex and I will do that one.
Okay.
So that leaves us with a second round on 380 Cambridge Avenue, a second round on 4256 El Camino, and Verizon Cluster 3 small cells. Is that downtown north? So I will not be participating in that. Okay. And the item that, okay, board members' questions, comments, or announcements?
The next North Ventura meeting is will be next Wednesday, January 16th, here in City Hall. I think it's in the front conference room.
Thank you. I wanted to ask, I wanted to say that when we make recommendations and when the director or whoever the recommending body is decides to modify those recommendations, it's important for us to get that information back in a formal way from staff. So is there a consensus on that?
Strongly so, yes. Several times, I think, decisions have been made through the system that we're not aware of, and I think we should be made aware of what actions are actually taken.
So if there are problems with our recommendations, it's important for us to understand what the considerations are that perhaps we didn't take into account, so that we're not just spitting into the wind.
I think, more importantly, I feel that many members of the public look to us, they think we have a meeting and a recommendation is made, and then when a different action is actually taken, it leaves severe distrust in the system. And it's really important to emphasize clearly why a different action was taken. I think the case with these cell phone towers recently demonstrates that.
Any other comments?
A previous planning director had like a monthly bulletin, and I thought it was useful because it summarized what each board was doing. So it was very easy for us to follow what was happening with the HRB, PTC, and the ARB, and then the planning director's decision. And if there was a problem, we could sort of see what was happening. And as we have it now, it's sort of left to us to follow the other boards on our own. And then we don't really there is no physical communication between the planning director and the boards. So
I do agree. I miss that greatly because I feel often that I'm startled to find out that something involving a project that we're also charged with dealing with is going before another board or another body. The prime example is the recommendation on sidewalk treatment or, bicycle lanes in front of the new housing at the corner of El Camino Real and Page Mill. And it would just having those project approvals, and that was a very helpful document, and surely something similar must exist internally, and if there's a way of modifying that for public use, it would be great. Anything else?
Yes, I would like to raise the question about the small telephone cell tone tower issue. City Council, as I understand it, is reviewing a proposal by staff to change the ordinance of how these are reviewed. And I'd like to address my concern that the Architecture Board has not even been consulted as to what that ordinance contains. And at least I've received a tremendous amount of public correspondence regarding that ordinance, questioning what the ARB should be doing. And I'm frankly surprised that I haven't been told what's in that ordinance. Nobody's asked our opinion yet. We've worked long and hard on that issue, and I would think we have a good advice to offer if we were only involved or asked about it. Then to the board, I feel that we need to go to that council hearing and be present for the council to confer with us if they would like regarding that issue again. I think one of the central questions that's going to come up is what is the appropriate level of review for these towers? And clearly staff is trying to balance practical necessities of reviewing these things in a quick way. I think the town has consistently expressed concern about the aesthetics of it. The board has struggled with this issue. I think it's negligent of us not to stay involved in that discussion, even if the planning staff is not involved us. So I'd like, through the chair, to have her appoint someone to be our representative at that hearing.
I'm happy to do that, and I'm happy to appoint you unless somebody else wants that assignment.
Well,
Seeing no volunteers?
It might be better if the chair were to represent
I
that.
think it would be best if you did it.
But mostly, it's important, I think, that the board be acting with a voice on this. Not saying we all agree, but at least agree that we should be talking.
I think it's important to have a representative. I think we can't discuss this very far, but I will say from the massive public correspondence that we have received, the charge in the correspondence, I say this to staff, asking you to get back to us on this, is that the revised regulations take the ARB out of the process in terms of defining and applying standards. And if this is the case, this would be an appropriate thing to discuss or have discussed with us. So I think that's as far as we can go, direction to staff. And not on my agenda, but I understand on other people's agendas is reorganization, which we are due to do. And I think staff usually presides over that. Unless you want to defer this till we have a full board.
Yes, so we do have the elections of the chair and the vice chair on the agenda. And so I think it would be best, we're already a little bit delayed on this, so I'm hoping that we could move forward. Are there any nominations for chair of the ARB?
Can I make a comment first, please? Especially, I'd like to get Alex's opinion on this, but it seems to me in a particular circumstance, I would be likely to be elevated to the chair, and it leaves us then having a choice for the vice chair of being either Alex, who's just recently was the chair, or two new board members who are both extremely new on the board and may not feel comfortable that they have the experience necessary. I would like to propose an option would be just to continue the current officer situation for the next year and then go forward after that, but I very much would like to hear what Alex thinks about that.
Oh, that's unusual. So normally we rotate through, and then in somewhere, so I've been on the board for 10 years. Somewhere in the middle, we had a lot of people who had to step off the board for various different reasons. And we did switch that around at that point where I think Claire Malone Pritchard served on the board a couple times as chair, pretty close together, just because we didn't really have the right mix of people, and so it does happen. So we're not tied to the rotation, but I think we should just rotate through, because I think you've been around long. You've definitely been around long enough. I think Uzma is. I think she should be ready to be vice chair, right? I think it would be useful to go through, but.
I should add that I will be leaving the board sometime in the fall, because my family is moving to, going north. And I don't know the date yet. I did discuss this with the previous mayor. I haven't discussed it with the new mayor, but I will try to time my departure so that it leads to seamless continuity on the board. David? Sorry, I'm not sharing this. What am I doing?
Sorry, I'll ask for David. Do you have any comments?
I'm pretty new to make a comment on this, but I certainly like the way it's been handled up to now, and it's a conflict to see that when you're not going to be more than another partial term here. I sort of agree with Peter. I think that it's a good idea to continue as it is right now. Certainly is a lesson for me to hear you both. And although Alex has had plenty of experience in this, I sort of feel that agree with the general idea that those more senior people here on the panel really have a greater depth of understanding of how the process works, and it would be useful to keep it just the way it is. That's my opinion.
Alex, in your broad experience on the board, has there ever been a case where a chair has repeated 2 times in a row?
No, I don't recall that, but I do recall that I think Claire Malone Pritchard served as chair maybe 2 times within 3 years, perhaps. So we've definitely considered it before. And then I think at that time, I think there was one time that I was supposed to be, it was my turn to be chair, but I was mostly doing subcommittee stuff, because I actually like doing the subcommittee more than I like being chair. So, yeah. So I think it's fine if you want to continue the way it is now. I think that's fine. And then we just realize that we're going to have to do an election in the midsummer, which is kind of unusual. I would say maybe if the council's doing term realignments, they're halfway through the term realignments, then we could maybe say, maybe we be preemptive and say we're going to extend it until, I think it's May 31st or something, somewhere, and then we can switch in June. Because they want to switch the terms so that you don't have, what do you call it?
Works for me, but I think I'd have to do a Nancy Pelosi and promise you that I would retire as chair, but not from the board.
I'd like to nominate Winforth to be the chair for the next term.
Okay, I will second.
And yes, sorry. And so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so Chair Firth will continue. And so then do we have a nomination for vice chair?
I will nominate Peter Balte for vice chair.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Board Member Liu and a second by Board Member Firth. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's four approved with Board Member Thompson absent on both of those votes. Thank you.
And I will say that for the next 5 months, knowing how much Alex enjoys subcommittees, I will be much less inhibited about appointing him to them. To come before this board today at this special meeting for which we all managed to show up practically. Yes. Then we are adjourned.